Hi everyone, my name is Mark Moykins from Big Mountain Studio, and today we're going to do something a little bit different. I've had a couple of people ask me, make different requests of me. They want to be able to see an application start from beginning to end, and I had some people also want to know how to design things from the beginning. And they suggested, taking an existing design and recreating it in Xcode. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take something totally from scratch with no assets, and I'm going to build all the assets myself. I'm going to put them together, and I'm going to produce a UI. For this example, I'm going to be using Dribbble. And this is kind of like a live exercise. So you're going to be seeing all of my mistakes that I'm going to be making. And this might be a long video. And if it's a long video, feel free to put it on 2x speed. On YouTube, you can change the speed of your videos using that little gear icon. That's what I do. I watch all my videos, almost all of them on 2x, just to watch things faster. So feel free to do that with this. Okay, this is the project that I'm going to get started with here. It's from Anton, I don't know if I can really pronounce his last name, Aheichanka from InVision. And this is on Dribbble, and they have a lot of great UI, especially like this guy's UIs. He's got a lot of really cool concepts and things that he builds. And I like this one too because it's also animated. A lot of times you'll see UIs that are not animated. And that's what I want to include in mine is a little bit of animation. Now, I won't be able to make mine look Most likely I won't be able to make mine look exactly like this because, I don't have that picture of the Golden Gate Bridge. And I might not have those fonts, and I might not have some of those icons and, of course, those profile pictures. But we will get as close as we can. I think you'll learn a lot from this, from the process that I go through. Maybe I take a long time doing some things, and you guys could offer suggestions like, hey, if you want to speed this up, try it this way. I'd love to learn from you guys. That's what I really like about the comments is I learn a lot from a lot of my different viewers. Okay, so let's get started here. I'm going to zoom in on here and take a closer look. Now, the first thing I wanted to do is I'll probably create a background, and there's different things happening here. There's some animations where this looks like, one piece, this is one piece that slide in. And for this animation right here, this looks like a schedule. So this could probably be expanding, which might be a table view in that case. So if it's a table view, I'll create a table view, and then I'll show you how to animate it from the side there. And down here, this is definitely taken from material design, where you have your floating action button, they call it. And when you click it, it looks like it's turning sideways and darkening a little bit, and then it expands this menu here with 3 different options. Okay, so maybe what I'll do is I'll start with the background, and then I'll start with this floating action button, and we'll get that animating. I might have to break this video up because it might be a little bit long. And again, I'm starting from scratch, so I don't even have a project in Xcode yet. Okay, there it is. It's just a little bit slow. Okay, we're going to create a new project. And let me readjust this screen here. I'm trying to change my recording dimensions. So, if you notice a lot of my videos, they're black on the sides, right? It's because the desktop of my Macintosh isn't the same aspect ratio that YouTube uses. So hopefully this will help. Okay, for this, what I'm going to do is what I'm going to use is I actually have some project templates down here in this custom area. And this might be another video where I teach you guys how to make these things because I do a lot of prototyping. I do a lot of prototyping. Part of it is because of that daily UI challenge. I make applications almost every day, if not one a week. Prototype applications, not full applications. So these have really helped me out. And I know there's a table view in this, so I'm going to start with that. And if you guys want access to this, I'll include a link to my GitHub account. And these templates are on GitHub. And from there, there's directions on that GitHub project too, which will show you how to install them and how to use them. So I'm going to start with the table view application. And let's just call this, what did he call it? He called it Secret Project, right? Secret Project. Okay. And we'll click Next. Okay, you see here, this is something, I'll just show you guys. On my Google Drive, this is kind of like a cheap man's repository. So I don't put everything in a Git repository because I produce so many prototypes that I don't really need to. I don't really need to save them. I don't really care about version history. A lot of times if I do use a Git repository, I use Bitbucket because up until a little while ago, GitHub, all the repositories used to be public unless you paid for it, and then you can have private ones. But now I believe you can have private repositories. In Bitbucket, it's really nice. I'm used to it because we use something similar to it at work, so I'm really familiar with it. But here, I just use my Google Drive. So I put everything in this iPhone development, and these are all projects. And then I have my daily UI projects, which are numbered right here. So where do I want to save this? I'll probably save it in my Google Drive. That way, what happens is I have multiple laptops, multiple machines, Macintosh machines. So I can easily open those projects up from any machine. I don't have to go through Git and then, do a pull and then open up the project. And I don't have to sync with Git. I don't have to do fetches. It's just, these are really simple prototypes. But if you're actually building a real project, I recommend actually using a Git repository or any repository of your choice, of course. Okay, so enough of that. Let me describe what's going on here. This is one thing with the project template. I'm not a super expert at creating these project templates. So there's 2 storyboards in here. Let me just click OK. So I have to delete the old one. Go away. There we go. Move the trash. Because this is the one that I actually want. And as you can see, I kind of changed this around to be model view controller here. And some of these things are defaults, so I couldn't manipulate these. So I'm going to organize this a little bit, and I'll move my other view in here. And my app delegate, I usually stick that in the controller just to keep it clean, keep my project clean here. Okay, and if we go to the main storyboard, it has some, this is part of the project template. This just really saves me time. I end up changing this, but these are all placeholders. And basically, I'll just tell you how it works real quick. Let's look at the view controller, start from there. I had the minimal setup for a table view. Notice I only have a UI table view data source. I don't have a table view delegate because it's not required unless you go into using some of the things from the delegate protocol. So I just have the data source because that's the minimum you need. And here I get the data, and this is kind of like a setup where it's more realistic for a real world application. Normally, you could, for prototypes, you could just create all your data right in the view controller. You don't have to separate it out into layers. But because this is a project template, it's super easy. It saves me time. I'm not losing time whether I create all the data here or in my data class. And I'll show you what the data class looks like. So here I create some data. And I'm going to leave it as just returning 1 row for now in my model array here. I'm just going to return 1 item in the model array. If we look at the mockup, looks like there's 3 items, right? And you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 different pieces of data. You have a number, AM, PM, a title, and a subtitle, it looks like. So we at least have that covered. If we look at our model, we have a title, a subtitle, and we have 2 more pieces of data. We could put the 8 in here and the AM or PM in here. A number here and an AM, PM. And we have an image. You don't have to use the image, but I'd like to put it in there because some of my mockups have images. Okay, so that is the tour here, the quick tour. And let's just run this to see what it looks like. And one of the things I like to do, I like to switch it to iPhone 7 because that's usually the simulator that I always have open. And it also matches, the iPhone 7 down here too. All right. And there you go. So it's pretty simple. It's not a lot there. So one of the first things that I'm going to do is let's take a look at this mock-up again. All right, there's no title, but there's a couple of icons there. So I'm just going to get rid of this. Whoops, it's going to delete the whole thing. Make sure I get the label selected, delete that. And for my table, let's move that down a little bit because will it go all the way down? Yeah, we'll have it go all the way down. The table will go all the way down to the bottom. And the floating action button stays on top of the content. Let's just start with there. Okay, so we need a background, right? Let's go find a background. And we'll find a background that has to do with the Golden Gate Bridge. So one of the things that I like to do is I have a collection here of free places where there are free images. And what I mean by free images is you don't need permission to use these. And you're not going to get in trouble for using these either. So one of the ones that I go to first is pexels.com, which actually another subscriber recommended this. And so you see, I love learning from you guys. When you guys have suggestions, it really creates a sharing environment. I love to teach you guys, and I love to learn from you guys too. Okay, so let's look for Golden Gate Bridge. We have a lot of nice shots here. So which one do you guys want to use? Let's use one of the bigger ones here. We'll use this one. Okay, now what happens is when I click on free download here, it's usually, oh, that was actually pretty fast. Sometimes it takes a long time to download these pictures because they're so big. So let's save that image, and we'll call it Golden Gate. And I'm going to save it, just for convenience, I'll save it right on my desktop here. Okay, now what I need to do is I need to use this image as my background. And so what I need, and I also need to change some of the colors too, right? Because we want to try to get close to, hold on. We want to try to get close to Anton's color scheme here. You know, he's got a lot of purples. And actually, let's take a look here. Yeah, he's got some of these. This is what I like about Dribbble too, is it has color swatches here that we can use. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up another program that I have here called Sketch. And Sketch is super handy. You guys might have your own graphics programs that you use. I love using Sketch because it's so simple. And the thing I like about Sketch too, as opposed to Adobe software, is Adobe software is rented. You have to rent it every month. And you get a lot of options and they give you a lot of choices. But I don't know, there's something, maybe I'm too old school. I don't like that idea of having to rent software. I like to just pay for it once and just be able to use it whenever I want. And if I miss some rental payments, it'll cut out some of the functionality. Okay, so in Sketch, I'm going to talk you through what I'm doing. This isn't a Sketch tutorial, but I'm going to hit A to insert an artboard. An artboard is kind of like your canvas that you're going to draw on. And what they have over here on the right side, they have sort of like some preset templates, artboards that you can choose from. We're using an iPhone 7, so I'm just going to pick an iPhone 7 here. Now, what you could do, like if you're going to design for larger devices, like how can I don't want to get too far into this. Because if I use an artboard that is an iPhone 7 Plus size, and then you want to also use this on an iPad, what I would do is I would create two images actually. And I don't see, this is the trouble with this. When I'm doing it live, like I'm afraid I'll get off of too many tangents and explain too far into it. So basically I'll just show you real quick what I'm going to do. I'm just going to create an iPhone 7 Plus. We can scale it down for iPhone 7, but it'll look best on my largest iPhone device. If I was doing an iPad background image, then I would pick an iPad. I'd actually have two images in my project, but only use one image depending on if it's an iPad or an iPhone. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this in here like this. And then we got to zoom out. So we got to grab these handles here. And I'm going to just make it the size here like this. And let's see here. Yeah, it's not the same angle or anything like that, but we'll try to stylize it so it's the same. And I'll try to move it down a little bit because you see like the first top third of this image is kind of clear, and maybe that was intentional from him. So maybe his image actually only comes up to here. So let's try to do something like that. We'll come down maybe about there, right? All right, let's zoom in. Now another thing I can do is I'm going to export this, so it's only going to grab this part of the image. But as you can see, the image is bigger. It goes out here, right? So one of the things that I can do, and I've done this in the past, if it's a really huge image, and I suspect it's slowing down my computer because it's so big, is I can double click the image, and you see the selection is defaulted there. So now I'm in selection mode. I can just grab it like this and just crop. And now my image is just as big as my artboard. All right, so let's get that purple color going here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a rectangle and overlay this. And yeah, you can't see anything, but you'll see what I'm going to do here after. So I'm going to get rid of the border. And for the fill, I'm going to go with a gradient. Okay, the top gradient is white. I want to change that to like a purplish color. And what I'm going to do actually is this. Let's go to his color palette here. And let's grab that purple. Okay, good, perfect. And then over here, this is the other end. See this dot down here? This represents this square right here, this color. And what we're going to do is we're just going to change that to more of like a clear color. And maybe, you know what, maybe I should go with purple on that one too. Let's try that. Now, just to let you guys know, I'm no expert at getting these images just right. My specialty isn't manipulating images. It's more just building iPhone apps. So this is tricky right here. So we have this line right here. So I want to be able to cover that up more. And what I'm going to try is let's select this and let's bring this down and see if we can, there we go, kind of cover up that line. This controls your gradient from this point to this point. That's the only place where the gradient exists. Everything from here up is solid. So let's drag that up a little bit. If I can, I got the wrong thing selected. I added another point there for the gradient. That's okay, we'll remove it after. Notice this is a third color that, if we wanted to, we could like stick red in the middle there, and that dot represents where the red is. But we don't want that, so I'm going to delete it. There we go, we just want to bring this down. That kind of covers it up. Now, that's not the best. I mean, it's definitely not as good as his, but I think it'll work for now. I don't want to spend too much time on it. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this, make sure the artboard is selected, the top level here, and I'm going to export it. And it defaults these sizes for me. Sketch is super handy. It knows that, I'm using iPhone, or what I've done in the past is I defaulted it to iOS. And just delete the 1X. The 1X, you don't need 1X anymore because that is for iPhone 4s. And the highest version on iPhone 4 was like iOS 7 point something, maybe even 8. I'm not quite sure. And of course, iOS 10 is out, so I'm not going to really support iOS 7, whatever the latest version of 7 was. So let's export these two images. I'm just going to export it to my desktop. Okay, good. And then go into Xcode here. And then I'm going to... man, I hate that white. You guys, if you see my videos, you know I'm always fixing this. So you hold down Command and hit 0 twice. There you go. And then I'm going to grab those two images. So what I do is I just kind of like resize the windows here. I have my two images here. Can't see the top of my screen. I'm sorry about that. Oops, let's go to Xcode and let's just drag those in here. Okay, good. Now that I have that, let's go back to our main storyboard. And if you come over here, this is your media library. And whenever you put things in your assets folder here, your Xcode assets folder, it should show up in your asset library. Sometimes it doesn't. If you just added something here and it doesn't show up, just click on one file and then click on assets again and then click off of it and you should see it show up. Okay, so let's add that here. And it's a little bit bigger because, we get the size for the iPhone 7 Plus and we're only looking at iPhone 7 here. So let's resize that to fit our screen. There we go. And then I want to put it behind the table view, so I'm just going to drag it up here in the document outline. All right, good. Now, let's see something here, just so we can get an idea of what it looks like. I want the table view to be see-through, so let me just check some properties here. Yeah, let's make this background clear on the table view. Okay, good, so it's come through. And then we'll also need to do that on our prototype cell here. Let's make that clear. And do I need to do it on here? Maybe. Just to be safe. Yeah, okay, there we go. Okay, run the project. Let's see what it looks like. Awesome. Okay, now one of the things that I like to do is I like to do the size check. So here we're using the iPhone 7. And what I'm going to do is let's click on that background, and I'm going to use auto sizing for this. And I'm just going to change these constraints. So now if you look at the preview, this image will always hug the borders of my iPhone, no matter what the size is. And I can just double check just by clicking here. I'll take a look at the SE. That looks okay. Look at the 7 Plus. That looks okay. You know, it's not going off. And for iPad, be the same thing. iPad doesn't look like it's really working. But that's okay because, oh, you know why? It's the content mode. You need to make it aspect. Let's make it aspect fill. Yeah, there we go. Now here, this is another thing that I was going to show you. So, like I said before, what I would actually have are 2 backgrounds for an iPad and an iPhone. Because sometimes it'll stretch and it won't be the right size. And I like to be able to just get it just perfect for iPads and for iPhones. So, you know, right here for the iPad, of course, it's going to be stretching out a little bit. Not stretching out, but it's going to be zooming in and cutting off parts of the image. So you see this property down here installed. Okay, so this is my iPhone 7 Plus image. So for the iPads, I would just uninstall it. And then I would add another image where it would be uninstalled for my iPhone. And it would just be, it'd only be installed for your iPad. So that's how I would handle it. It's just using this installed property. And then what installed means is when they download and install the application, it's actually not going to install the bigger image for the iPad because it doesn't need it. So it'll save you some space. So don't worry about including too many images, you know, bloating your application for the iPhone, because it won't matter if you use that installed property. All right, so let's go back to my to the other size here. So this is okay, device. Let's go to, we had it on 7. Yeah, we'll just stick with that. Okay, now we need a floating action button. And for this, now one of the things that I like to do too for my project is, let's stop this. And let's create another group here. And I'm going to call this resources. And basically this is anything that helps me create my project that doesn't neatly fall into the model view controller folders. So what I want to do now is, you probably know that I have another library. If you watch some of my other videos, I have another library of a lot of interface builder inspectables or designables that I like to use. And this is really going to help me with this button in this case. So what I'm going to do is add those files here. And again, they're in my Google Drive. And I have them, you know, highlighted here, Designable X, because I go in here so much. And it's just this folder right here. And again, this project right here is on GitHub. And if you want to use these files, what you want is not this project. You don't want this whole project. This project is just for testing these designables. You just want this folder right here that has these designables in here. Okay, so now they're here. And so what we want now is we want a button that's going to hover over right about here, right? So let's add a button. Actually, for that, I'm going to take a quick break and get something to drink. So I'm just going to pause it here.